Paul Paone from the MMA World Expo. Paul, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, Stephen, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's a pleasure to have you on, and I have to admit it's a little bit of a surprise that there's an MMA World Expo in a state where mixed martial arts is currently not able to be presented as a sport. So maybe you can explain that to us, because I know I want to know, and our listeners definitely want to know.
Yeah, no problem. Just because the state banned the sport doesn't mean we don't have mixed martial arts fans here. In fact, there's a huge community of fans and practitioners, amateur athletes, professional athletes. Although they can't compete here, they do exist. In fact, our office resides a few blocks away from the Henzo Gracie Academy, Marcelo Garcia School. There's a huge network of schools right here within the area. So we definitely have the representation, although we don't have the professional fight status yet.
Right, and of course, a lot of famous fighters come from the state of New York. The light heavyweight champion of UFC, John Jones, is from New York, and a former welterweight champion, Matt Serra, is from New York. So there's no shortage of practitioners of the sport there. It's just that a lot of people don't perceive New York as a place where you can even run an expo, but obviously your festival is taking place this weekend proves that wrong in a big way.
Yeah, it does. I mean, people, in fact, we're having amateur bouts at the show this year, and people are shocked when they hear that even. So there definitely needs to be some education as to what's happening. And the status of the legalization is still kind of up in the air. We're hoping that something happens this year. But again, it's been a long road. I don't even want to speculate as to why it's still illegal. Things just get stalled in Albany, and unfortunately, it's a waiting game for us. We'll see. But with Governor Cuomo, we're hoping that new things will happen.
Now, are you part of that push then to get it legislated in Albany and get it passed? I know that Frank Shamrock went out there for a while to campaign and work on it, but I didn't know if you were part of that campaign as well.
Yeah, we basically we've had a petition at every one of our shows since 2009, and we've sent thousands and thousands of signatures up to Albany. And when Frank had gone up and spoke for the assembly, we had a kind of a small rally down on Broadway. Not many people showed up, but we did make they made an impression on the crowd. But honestly, at this point, we've invited all the big shots from Albany to come down, take part in the expo, really speak to the community, speak to the constituents, and let people know what is really happening. In fact, this Sunday, we have Senator Lee Zeldin. He's a state senator here in New York. He'll be taking part in our panel discussion about the status of MMA in New York. I think John McCarthy's also on that panel, and we've got a couple of other notables like Nick Lembo of the New Jersey State Athletic Commission, Dr. Sherry Wolkin, and a few others. So we definitely address it every year, and we wait to see what happens.
Now, we had Sean Wheelock on a couple of weeks ago, and he told us that he had an upcoming Rules of MMA seminar in New York. Is this going on concurrently with the MMA World Expo?
Not that I'm aware of, no. What's happening this weekend is, there's tons of things going on, but the few amateur MMA fights are probably our leader. But we also are hosting Henzo Gracie's Open. We're doing both gi and no gi tournaments. And we've got tons of celebrities coming in. We've got catch wrestling. But basically have components from the various martial arts represented at the show, and either demonstrations. We even have a Muay Thai demo that's going on at the show as well. So, not sure if you've taken a look at the schedule, but since 2009, we've done something called Training with the Masters. And we've got people like Phil Nurse, Jimmy Pedro. We've had Marcelo Garcia in the past. And they basically are there to represent their particular discipline, their area of expertise. And the average Joe can get in there and actually get on the mats with them and get training, not on a one-on-one, but, they're on the same mats with these big-time coaches and stars.
Awesome. It's a tremendous opportunity for people to come to this expo and learn from the masters, as you said yourself. But this convention's been going on since 2009, so this isn't something new. This has been around for a few years. So I want to know what caused you to start putting together this whole weekend of activities in the first place? What inspired you to get behind the MMA World Expo in New York?
Yeah. Well, basically, I mean, I personally have been a fan of the sport, since day one. And in fact, I'm a trade show producer. And at the time, right before I actually launched the event, I was running my technology show. And my technology show is for, it's technology for the meetings industry. And as you know, 2008 was a pretty tough year for everybody, including my show. So I was training jiu-jitsu at a local gym, and I was literally on my back. We just finished a couple of drills, and I sat there, and the idea hit me in the head. You know what? Everything else seems to be struggling, and mixed martial arts is on its way up. It's like the only thing that's doing well at the time. So I got off the mat, got changed, went home, I secured the URL, and, the show started that day.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you had the foresight to get that URL and get it together and launch a great show that everybody can come to New York this weekend and take part in the festivities. But you said you've been a fan since day one. What would be the first event that you saw? Was it one of the original pre-Zuffa UFCs, or what are we talking about?
Yeah, it was a pre-Zuffa. I mean, it was still, cable. It was no holds barred. It's kind of the stuff that got us in trouble in New York in the first place. It's originally why they banned it. But it was fun back then. I mean, I was really just introduced to the sport back then. I mean, I'm in my 40s now, and when I was, in my 20s, MMA really just didn't exist really until those first two things aired. And when I looked at the TV, I was like, wow, that is the most spectacular thing I've ever seen. And of course, it's evolved, from the Stone Age to where it is now, which I think the UFC is doing a great job. But there are other players in the market now. There's obviously Bellator, MMA, who will actually be at our show this weekend, as well as the World Series of Fighting. They're a new organization. They're doing a press conference at a show on Saturday to make the announcement of their next event. It's their second event down in Atlantic City. Andrei Arlovsky is going to be there at the press conference along with Anthony Johnson. They're announcing their fight along with several others. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's excellent. We just got the press release from World Series of Fighting on their second event the other day. I believe it's at the Revel in Atlantic City, or maybe Revel. I'm not
right.
sure. I'm not from the East
Yeah,
Coast, so I don't
know
know
how to pronounce that name.
Yeah, it doesn't show, there's no accent mark on the vowels to know how to pronounce it, but I'm glad you said, when we first called, I wasn't sure if it was Paone or Paone, and you said it right off the bat, so that cleared one up for me. I hope not too many people mess that up, but anyway,
no.
It's fantastic to have you on the show tonight and to hear more about the Expo and how you've been a lifelong fan of mixed martial arts, but it's definitely a situation where as you said yourself, UFC has helped to grow the sport and make the brand what it is today. But UFC is not officially represented, although a lot of their fighters are. So, I mean, what's the feelers? Have you put it out to UFC to be, an exhibitor at the Expo? What is the situation there?
Well, I mean, look, we kind of remain agnostic to all fight organizations. What we do is, our Expo is kind of a celebration of the sport itself. It's a celebration of mixed martial arts. So we allow, we don't bar anyone from coming. All fight organizations are allowed. And like I said, we've had Bellator, WSOF, M1 Global. We've had several. But the UFC, they have their own thing. They've got their fan expo, and their expo kind of is their celebration of themselves, essentially. But, without the UFC, none of us would be here, I think. We can say that for sure. And, they do a great job. In fact, you mentioned John Jones, you mentioned Matt Serra. They've both been at our show. And, in fact, all of our marquee names are all UFC fighters. Last year we had Randy Couture, we've had Vanderlei Silva, Matt Hughes, and so on.
That's awesome.
So, yeah,
and,
we invite them every year to take part in our show, so they just haven't accepted yet.
I'm sure that's fine though, because like you said, they do have their expo in Las Vegas. They had the one last July that I think is now going to be an annual tradition. So they do kind of do.
I've actually, I've gone to the one in Boston a couple of years ago. I went to that and enjoyed myself. It was a fun event. We definitely have a different vibe though. Ours is more of it's more of a community feeling when you're there. Everyone knows each other. A lot of people meet for the first time, which is cool. But you see a lot of the schools interacting, and it really is like a community feeling as soon as you walk through the door.
Well, I hope everybody gets to be a part of that community this weekend because it's coming up February 16th through 17th, and there's so much going on. You've run down the list. There's tons of vendors there too. Everybody that'll be selling stuff that if you're a mixed martial arts fan, you can get stuff from Ring to Cage, from Elite Plus, from Mojo, from everybody that's going to be there. So tell people how they can get tickets and how they can get more information on the event.
Yeah, it's easy. Just go to our website, which is MMAWorldExpo.com, and just follow the links. And if you can't register online, you can always get your tickets on site and participate in pretty much everything.
Now, there's also a UFC card going on this weekend, running during the Expo, but it's a overseas card. It's the Renan Barão versus Michael McDonald fight. Is there going to be like a watching party for people who are at the Expo this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have our official after parties at Sapphire, New York, and they're going to be airing the fights there as well. So we're all going to shut down the Javits Center at about 7 o'clock, head over there. They're over there they're on the east side of Manhattan. So they're providing transportation. Actually, they're providing free tickets, limo rides from the Javits over to the club, and they're even giving you a free drink ticket. You just got to get in the show and pick it up from their booth. And that's the Sapphire New York booth.
Well, that's excellent. I hope everybody takes advantage of that because that'll be a great way to watch the fights. Do you have any predictions on the Barão-McDonald fight yourself?
No, you know what? My wife is 9 months pregnant, and she to add to all the craziness of the show, she's ready to go any minute. So I'm actually sitting at my desk at work right now, and I'm waiting for a call. So we've been preoccupied with things, with the show, and I'm getting another daughter. I don't want to say unfortunately, but hoping for a boy. But I guess we're going to have 3 kids.
Awesome. Well, we know you can't really make predictions or go too deeply into cards when you've got a wife who's 9 months pregnant. So I want to say on behalf of Glove Up or Shut Up, congratulations on the forthcoming birth, and hopefully it all times out well that her water doesn't break while you're in the middle of the Expo. But if she's 9 months, it could happen anytime. That's
right. I'm telling her to hold on till Monday.
Keep those fingers crossed, Paul. And hey, we appreciate you taking the time, even though you've got so much going on tonight. Thank you so much for being on the air with us. And we hope the MMA World Expo is a big success this weekend.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care, and we'll talk to you later.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, that was Paul Paone from the MMA World Expo. Everybody, please go to MMAWorldExpo.com to get more information about the show and find out how you can get your tickets and take part in this weekend's events. They're going to have amateur fights. They're going to have a tournament. They're going to have all sorts of stuff going on, including the World Series of Fighting press conference for their next show in Atlantic City at the Revel. So, Kevin, what did you think of that interview?
Learned a lot. I didn't know, like you, I didn't know that there was an MMA World Expo in New York with everything that was going on. So it was good to hear from Paul.
Yeah, it makes sense when you think about it. You know, if it's amateur fights and vendors and fans and jiu-jitsu seminars and things like that, I mean, that's all stuff that's not going to be classified as organized professional fighting. So they can put on an expo with all that stuff and then invite the fighters to come and meet the fans. And that's completely above board. It's great that they can do that.